Hello humans, welcome back to this final video on modeling. Before we begin to make assets for our game, remember we are actually going to be developing a game, so despite all this long series of basically talking and explaining different menu sets, we're finally here. Before we begin with the proper modeling, I just wanted to just wrap this whole thing up just to give you some examples. Remember we had a curve setting here, curve menu here, and mesh menus, and I told you that you could actually, curves are useful not only for NURBS but also for polygon modeling. I'm going to show you what exactly I meant by that. I'm going to create basically a I don't know, a cylinder, right? And speaking of stuff, well, I'm going to talk about this later anyway, but I just wanted to show you something cool here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a curve as well, whatever it is, from the front view too, because it'll be easier from the front view. So I'm going to go and create this weird curve. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to extrude a face on this curve. In order to do that, though, we need to select the face and the curve object. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to go into multi-mode to be able to select. Remember I told you that we would rarely use that? Well, that's one of the cases when you actually have to go ahead and do that. Select the face of the object and then select the curve. Okay, now you're going to press Control E or go into your edit mesh or shift right mouse button and go into extrude face. But basically press Control E and this will extrude your face along the the path here. Unfortunately, as you can see, this does not really provide us with much use, and as such, just need to increase the divisions. And whenever you increase the divisions, you'll be getting more appropriate results here. Okay. Obviously, once you're done, you're gonna press Q, and this is your cable. I believe this even comes with a cap. Yes, it does. So yeah, I mean, you can cap off different things like this, but there's also settings and functions to capping off, tubes, especially once you extrude them with the surface extrusion. You can cap it off at the end if you wanted to. And then we're free to modify this. It's just all we got to do is go into object mode and, Alt-Shift-D to delete all the history so that we can lock this in. And then go back to face mode and maybe grab this and delete it. And as you can see, there's no cap, for example. In this case, we wouldn't actually even see the curve because the curve, I believe, is gone. If we go ahead and open this thing and see, oh no, the curve is still here. The curve is here, which is nice. I suppose it's nice, but this is not the curve I'm looking for some reason. There's the second curve. There it is. Notice that, by the way, not affected anymore, not connected. So if I even if I go into a curve, like a control vertex, and grab something, I'm not going to be changing the shape of this object, whereas in the opposite fashion, if I did not delete the history, I would be able to do so. Anyway, enough of curves and these fancy objects. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. It's called the tweak mode. This will allow you, it's kind of a useless thing really, but I don't know, in some cases it might be helpful. All right, so go into create anything really, and go into vertex mode. Now, if we wanted to modify, like move a particular set of vertices, you have to select the vertex and then move the vertex, right? And that's fine and dandy, but it basically requires you to click twice, once to select and once to move. If you hold down the tilde key, it's the one between tab and 1, but basically the one under escape, okay, in the top left corner. What allows you to do is to do your to perform these movements without selecting, without having to actually have the gizmo running, which is pretty cool because it allows you to, basically allows you to modify your mesh a little bit faster, okay? A little bit faster, just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. It allows you to move your stuff to left to right, basically uses your last setting here. So notice this way I move it to the left here, and then I can press and hold tilde and move this bit to the left, and maybe this bit to the left and upwards a little bit. So there's definitely, I suppose, a use for this, but I just don't know when you would need to use it, because like really this would be quite maybe it is beneficial to a degree. I don't know. I don't know. It always follows the same archway anyway. So maybe if you press and hold Shift, this will allow you. No. So you're stuck to just holding it down and, you know, move your stuff accordingly. You can go into edge mode. This will obviously work the same way with edges. But you know, it's because it sticks to only one axis. I really can't see it being used all that much because, like I said, if I use this axis, for example, it'll allow me to move edges on this axis from here. But if I decide to do so from here, it'll be moving left to right. I can't actually perform the same action by pulling something out. All right, so I need to use this z-axis, and then everything's going to be moving on the z-axis. This is obviously available for scaling as well. So if I wanted to scale this up and down, I would do so as well. So maybe universal as well. You could use universal scaling. Maybe this is a little bit more appropriate for that. It works with any tool really. Rotation wise too, you can rotate different things. Although in this case it's kind of weird. I don't even know if snapping works. So let's just try it. Yeah, snapping does work. But it is a very awkward hand placement. You have to hold J and then the tilde, so it's kind of weird. You'd be better off just using the regular snapping tools here. Or just the projection, whatever floats your boat here. Anyway, that's all about the tweak mode. And one final thing, remember I found out that when you press Control T, you're going to get all these fancy modes here, like all these total controls. Well, yeah, there's actually a way to get rid of it. I thought that pressing Control T one more time would get rid of it, but it's just T. You just press T, and that's what you get. You get this default stuff here. So yeah, definitely useful. Control T. I didn't know that this thing existed. Definitely would have saved me some trouble in multiple occasions because this allows you to really go, you know, balls to the wall with your, you know, with your manipulations, because you can manipulate the object in many different ways, and it even gives you readouts, which is very, 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 very handy. As you can see, you actually have readouts here, unlike when you use the rotation tool when there's nothing here. All right, so that's definitely handy in this case. I believe if we go Control T, we're not going to have the rotation menu though, which is unfortunate. So Control T only works with the transform here. Okay, and no snaps as well. No snaps. Snaps do not work in this case. So that's unfortunate too. They definitely could have done a little bit of a better job though with this, because I believe they could have just used Unreal Engine's type of snaps a lot more, and the toolkit really in UE4 at least you can see the rotation. That's really annoying. That's really what annoys me in Maya. You don't see what kind of figures you're getting here. Obviously you could see them in the, oh my god, this never saves, does it? Obviously you can see your rotations here in the channel box, but you know, you could always go into your attribute editor as well and grab the P cube and you know, go into your settings here, polycube, and just go into whatever you have, the history. I don't believe you can actually get the settings here. You need to go into P cube, and that's where is your these are your transforms here. So yeah, I mean, it could come in handy at some point, but really the transform, I think it's more useful when creating stuff, not when you're actually modeling. Because don't forget, this is I believe this is available in every mode. So if you create the select this edge loop and then go Control T, no, nothing will happen. Okay, so this is only for object mode. Well, that's cool enough, I suppose. One final thing before I finish this video and we finally get to modeling is that remember, I am not a professional at Maya, right? Everything I just showed you is my personal experience, and some of these tools I've never used and have no idea what they do. In some cases, when I say that it's probably useless, it doesn't mean that it is, all right? I could be wrong on many things that I'm saying. Also, make sure that, you know, as you progress, you will find out about these tools that you may need. You will always find a video. That's a good thing about Maya. There's always videos about almost every tool out there. All you got to do is just Google the name of the tool, and there will be most likely a video explaining how this tool operates, why does it work the way it does, what's its purpose, and you know, what's the point of using it. Obviously, you could also go and get a Maya course. Now, I didn't have the time, the desire, nor the money to do that, because courses usually, you know, they usually teach you a bunch of stuff that you might not end up needing. So I decided to self-teach myself. So I'm kind of a self-taught Maya guy, which you can do as well. And this brings me to my final point. Whenever you get to something, let's go into surfaces. This is the most cryptic, at least for me, because I don't know half of these. Why would I need something like, let's say, I don't know. I probably get, let's say we go to Bevel Plus. I don't know what the difference between Bevel and Bevel Plus. So we're going to open this these two options here. As you can see, there's a bunch of options here on the bevels, right? But you could, by the way, before I would do that, I would Google what Bevel Plus does, which I believe I did at some point because I remember some settings about cappings and all of those. As you can see, there's plenty of options here, and you can have different output options as well, like polygons versus NURBS and how many, like the counts and sampling. But my point is, you can always go into the help and help on Bevel tool. This help tab exists on every tool out there. This is extremely valuable because it allows you to quickly navigate the otherwise huge documentation from Maya. So as you can see, I just clicked on it. Unfortunately, it always opens up, even if your default browser is something like Chrome, going to open it up in Edge in this case, which is sort of, I suppose, kind of pointless because what's the point of default browser if it's going to open up on another one? But as you can see, all of the stuff here is explained. Even they got pictures and what the tool actually does. And like I said, first obviously just Google for a video. Usually people do a pretty good job at explaining it, especially when they're people who know a lot more than me. Or in that case would be you as well. So things like boundary and square, I also have no idea what they do. You could Google that. Maybe you will find it useful, right? I don't think I'll find it useful for what I'm doing. Maybe in the future I will, whenever I got some free time. I just got nothing better to do. But yeah, always make sure to go for the help line. Another thing I wanted to mention here is the hotbox controls. If you go into your main menu bar, make sure to define your own workspaces, because in some of these, even though I said that there's a lot of garbage in the UI, like if we go back into Classic, you will quickly see that there's a bunch of stuff here that I really don't think are needed, considering the fact that you have so much access to these different settings. Right, we can go to channel box, which, oh my god, it actually does not save my hotkeys. Are you for real? Are you for real? So as you can see, the channel box, the tool settings still pop off, but the channel box does not. So if I wanted to get the attribute editor, I could swap between the two, which is pretty cool, instead of having them collapse on all the time. But it definitely takes some space. Like, unfortunately, there is no hotkey. Like, you could collapse this if you press on it. That's the bit that I really don't like about Maya currently. There's no way to collapse stuff to the side. So you know, whenever you activate it, so it's nicely docked. At least I'm not aware of how to do this. So I recommend you define your own workspace here, because let's just say the tool button, the tool option, the tool settings here, let's say they're docked nicely on the side. You can always collapse them, right? Which is very handy. So you can have these all these tool settings here on the side. Obviously, you can just you can always just close them as well, and that's oops, my bad. That's also an option, but you're missing out on a potential, you know, how should I say it? A convenience, all right, when they're not in the way, and they're always on the side. So if I press Control Shift Q right now, they should open up the. Okay, once they're collapsed, as you can see, they're not changed. Even though I'm changing the buttons here, even though they're being changed, they are collapsed, and as such, I'm not really getting any benefit from my hotkeys. So I have to go ahead and click this. I did a little bit of research. I couldn't find it anywhere where you could just expand, you know, the tool here. So that's very nice, because you can swap around. It gives you an idea. You can swap around, and just Control A in this case. Control A also opens up the attribute box. By the way, Control A is a very good thing to maybe change, because if you have attributes with Alt Q, or just have them drop down if you create like a torus and you have the attributes popping up when you just click this. It's nice to have Control A set up as something else, because it's a very, I think it's a very useful shortcut. It's just that, you know, you got to figure out what you want it to do. So yeah, you cannot actually expand these, so I end up having my own workspace where things are a lot more. Oh god damn it, are you shitting me? Seriously? Oh boy. Yeah, for some reason Maya does not save my hotkeys, so I believe there's a way to go and edit this startup script for Maya, and you gotta input some, you know, whatever you gotta input there. It's gonna do that for you, but I can't be arsed. Really, I can't be, because there's just too much stuff here. Just delete this as well. have a clean a scene. Control S to save it. And really, you don't really need Control S and Control A in this case, because Control S is a save. You can always operate. You can do a save from anywhere. You can just save scene. Like these are not shortcuts that will speed up your workflow. So make sure before you start working, just to define your hotkeys so that you get used to them. Define them in a way that makes the most sense. All right, Control S and Control A very easy to use. Control D is a good shortcut. All right, it duplicates stuff. Y and G are essentially your tools that re-enable your previous hotkey. So in other words, tools. So if I went ahead and let me just create something, and I went ahead into, what am I doing here? Just get me this thing. Went ahead and I opened up the multicut tool. I started doing some weird things with it, just adding these edges here. Whatever I did, I added something, press Q to exit out of it, and then let's say I need it again, I just press Y and it's going to give me the same tool here, and it's going to allow me to create whatever it is I'm creating. Okay. It's also nice to have a shortcut for live objects. In our case, it's L. Control L, so you can make an object live. As you can see, it's currently live, and then you can unlive it. Disable the make live. Okay. What else is there? Hold J, obviously, for snap. So if you hold J for snaps, you can get this. I already talked about that. G, on the other hand, is a different thing. It repeats the last command. So if you had some command running, like extrude, for example, if we go ahead and extrude this face, obviously you wouldn't be using it for extrude because extrude has its own shortcut, Control E, and you extrude something, right? You can obviously press Control E again and keep extruding here, and whatever it is you do, you can always keep doing the same thing with extrusion, and you can obviously snap to particular spots. But let's say you press Q, and maybe it's not extrude, maybe it's bevel, maybe it's smooth, maybe whatever it is, and you want to extrude this face, you press G again, and it's going to give you back another extrusion, and you can keep pressing G to re-enable the previous function. So that's handy. Okay. What else am I missing? Press J for re-enabling stuff. I think really that's really it when it comes to shortcuts. There's not really much else I can think of that can help you out. Remember your snaps, right? Your X, Y, and Z. So if you had if you had an object and you move it, you can snap with X on the grid. If you had a curve, so if we create a curve here, probably be a good idea to get the curve tool. To get the curve tool on a shortcut, because there's no way to get to it through a context-sensitive menu. But if you got some kind of curve here, you could always snap to a curve, and this works, by the way, for anything, right? You gotta make it live though. So you press L to make it, Control L to make it live, and then you should be able to snap onto it. Sorry, my bad. With C, did I not make this thing live? What's the story? Oh my god, it's a curve, so it has its own. Alright, just make live like this. Okay, this should enable it. And now I should be able to slide upon it. No? What the hell is bugging out again? Is this thing live? It should be live. Why is it not live? Yeah, well, when you're using Maya, also be prepared to get loads of bugs and weird issues that you don't really understand why they're happening. Because in my case, I just press Q to get rid of everything, and I should be able to. Let's create another one. Press Y to get the curve. Press Enter to set it. Let's just make it live through the drop down. It does not make it live. Okay, well that's new. Maybe something's bugging out. Maybe I'm not doing something right. But generally, by holding C, holding C allows you to go along the curves. Okay, you can grab this and go along the curves, and obviously holding V will allow you to go onto vertices. In this case, the vertex stuff, vertices snap pretty well. Okay, press D to get your manipulator tool. You can bake it in and out, so you can get pretty cool things. Some weird rotations, and you get this. Obviously, once you reselect it, it's going to be still there. It's going to be baked in, so you won't have to go into modify and a reset transformation, not reset, a center pivot, right? You can bake it in obviously after that, but it's usually automatically baked the moment you press something. So yeah, there's not much else I can tell you guys. This is all the workflow. These are the most common things that you may need. F obviously for focus, Control Z to go back. Yeah, tab to select multiple faces at the same time, like painting on it. Really, there's a bunch of stuff where you might need to use later down the line, but these are the basics, right? After that, you've got mainly things like, let me just get rid of these menus here. You've got things like show, for example, you can X-ray stuff like view different cameras, right? You can well, there's basically a bunch of things like the lighting. You can use different light selections, though we don't need it. In our case, if you had joints, you go to X-ray the joints, or you wireframe on the shaded, for example, is pretty nice if you wanted to see what exactly you're doing. Yeah, I believe that is all. Make sure to, if you get stuck, make sure to Google it. All right, Google is your best friend. If you don't get a video or a good enough explanation off of Google, obviously you want to go into your tool settings, whatever you need, and go into help, and then you help on polygon plane options, for example. And even though we know what it does, this will give you a more detailed breakdown of whatever this is, assuming it loads. So what is it now? Why does it not load? Thank you. So as you can see, this actually went all the way into the create menu, and you've got all these different like prisms. I didn't even know you could create a prism. All right, so that's pretty cool. Pipes, pyramids. You can create a pipe. You can create a helix. Wow, that's nice. You can coil stuff around. Well, there. See, you can always learn something new, like a soccer ball. You wouldn't need a soccer ball really, but I knew about the soccer ball. All right. So yeah. You can always check something, and you can always find something interesting. Like the UVs, we're not going to go into UVs just yet. It's all about textile density and all that. So yeah, that is all, guys. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Always look around the net, and don't just take my word for it. Maybe I missed something. As you can see, I'm learning stuff even as I'm going. Right? I just learned that there's a helix and a coil that you could get. You could make a primitive like that, which I was unaware that it existed. Let's go and see. There you go. There's a helix, but not a coil. There's a prism there too. There you go. So that's pretty cool. I guess the helix is the coil. There's just the coil was the option there. So yeah, definitely go ahead and look around this, the software, but don't go into too in depth. All right, because what you want to do is have a functional way of modeling. All right, so try to combine the NURBS knowledge that you have with your mesh editing knowledge that you have and your sculpting knowledge that you have to produce assets for the game, because that's your final goal, right? You don't want to be making some fancy things with so that like animations, some super tight animations. Whenever you're modeling, always consider what's the purpose of your object. If you're creating a character, try to be as specific as possible, right? All the animations have to be crisp, right? All the details must be crisp. But then that's also dependent, because if you have someone looking at the character from this distance, they will really see every detail, right? Let's go ahead and create a helix, really. I just want to see the damn thing. All right, that's fancy. That is cool. I like this. I like this. This is definitely a lot cooler. I thought you had to... Previously, I was actually performing actions like these with a like you can actually get the coils, etc. I just pressed T, by the way. You can increase. Wow, look at this. So cool. So cool. I was doing that with believe it or not, with the NURBS modeling, getting the bends in there and then extruding across the bend. So as you can see, there's plenty of ways to get the same thing, although this is just a shocker to me, because this would have saved me so much time when I was screwing around with these bends. But what my point is that if you were to animate this, let's say going up and down, like backwards and forwards, let's squishing and stretching, like let's say we're gonna go and create a deformer, right, and just get a nonlinear squash in this case, right, and you go into our toolkit here, maybe decide to move this around or increase the the squashness of it. Maybe have something that bounces like this, right? Imagine this is a bouncing machine, and you basically be creating an animation based on this. Okay, so that's what you'd be doing. And this would be a start animation. This would be a final animation, something like this. Maybe add a little bit more, divisions here. But at the end of the day, you want your player to see it. Like if this is hidden inside a car, you just wasted a lot of work on something that only the most observable players will see. Now, there's nothing wrong with attention to detail, but you only have so much time during the day, and you want to be using it as efficiently as possible. If you have 15 3D artists working for you, yeah, sure, make them freaking animate this to hell. Just make it look as good as possible. But if the player's going to look at it from this distance, let's say this is going to be flying at a speed somewhere past, like nobody's going to notice that, all right? Focus on the things that are important. And if you have a character, for example, don't go making it super high definition if the player will be looking at him from the top, okay? If you're making a strategy game or an RTS or whatever, something from the top, you don't need to be so precise. You may not even have to add souls to your character if it's not going to be jumping or if there won't be any vision at the bottom. All right, especially if you have top-down views, you really don't need to be modeling toes. Nobody will be looking at the toes, especially if you got footwear. Like usually, when it comes to feet, the foot is just a square. It's just a cube. People just grab like a couple, like go into front view, for example, focus on the thing, and then go into vertex mode. Maybe pull this up a little bit, and then grab this. Pull this down a little bit, and like there you go. You already have something. Like obviously you wouldn't be doing this in vertex mode all the time. You'd be going into these modes here and just slide these two edges downwards, perhaps, assuming I just grab them. And this bit here, always you can even rotate around to see what's going to happen. But this is obviously not ideal. I forget to go and shift them. Now you move them down like this. And then you can get maybe this vertex here, grab it down, move it downwards, and maybe get these up a little bit more, and grab these two edges, for example, and move them forward. Well, you get to grab them. You have to grab them by dragging as well, because you want the whole thing to move forward, not just the edges, and move them forward like this. Not ideal again, because I grabbed this other bit. But then you can change your viewports. For example, go to the front viewport. No, this is the top viewport, the side viewport. Now this is, I was working on the front. God damn it. Okay, this is the side. Then you go into your face mode, right, and you grab these faces here. You grab these faces here, go to the side, and then you move them forward, and there you go. You got something like something of a foot. You keep screwing around with this, and like go to the top view, right, and maybe squash it in. Maybe grab these faces here, to squash them in a little bit, and squash this bit a little. Obviously, you're not gonna have that many what's its face subdivisions in order to, you won't have to model on such a high poly object when it comes to the foot. But at the end of the day, you're gonna get something resembling a foot. All right, and this is block modeling. If you use sculpting, this could be even easier, but this, you don't need that much detail on this particular object. Okay, for the one reason that the player won't be paying much attention to your feet. This could be a robot's foot, right? It doesn't have to be an organic foot, and this is not obviously a complete thing. You'd have to go around and maybe raise the arch a little bit. If this was like the foot on the inside, because let's say you have to drive this bit in, you'd have to go into your vertex mode perhaps, and move this up a little bit so that there's this arch, right, a little bit here. Maybe move this to the left so that there's a little bit more. You'd have to work on multiple vertices. Obviously, in this case, this is not ideal because you wouldn't be having, again, that many subdivisions. You probably delete those. It'll give you a better deformation. But yeah, you get the idea, okay? Just try to work smart. Right? Don't try to do the most difficult stuff. Like if you're making a foot, try to make it as believable as possible in as easy a way as possible. Don't try to make it from a NURBS curve, okay? Define this curve. This is the outline of our foot, and then we're gonna have this thing, at the bottom, and then we're gonna have to revolve around. You could do it, but I just don't see why would it be faster. All right, always choose the fastest mode. Maybe if you're some Maybe if NURBS make a lot of sense for you, maybe you could use those. Okay. Now, having said that, this is the final video. This is the end of the final video on the modeling series. We went through all of this stuff except the UVs. We're not going to go into UVs just yet. You know, we're going to go to the UVs actually quite late, maybe at the end. What we have left now, what we're actually have to do now, is to start making some assets. In the meantime, I recommend you guys play around with the menu sets. All right, pop off a mesh menu set. Pop it off, please. Pop off a mesh menu set and start. Just get a mesh done and start using these. Try to make something using only these. All right, and then once you've had the hardship of trying to figure out how to get something done with only that menu set, try to get this one. And then realize that some of these settings are very useful, very helpful for whatever it is you're trying to do, right? And how they would complement quite well the menu set on the left here, right? So once you get used to those, you can start using the toolkits, right? You can get the mesh tools, grab the tools, start playing around. Obviously, at the same time, you'll always be using, you know, the contextual menu, because the contextual menu, by the way, is operational in curve mode as well. If you go ahead, I really have to set up a freaking hotkey for this. We create a curve tool. We create a curve. Now press shift left point and shift right click, and I can add points to it. All right. You can even convert it to a Bezier a lot easier. With control, you can again, control always selection. Always think about selection when you go to control. And obviously control and shift is for symmetry. The same thing applies here as it does on polygons. The only difference is that right mouse button gives you different control options here. Everything else is the same. All right. So play around with these settings. Like I said, maybe you need all of these shelves. I suppose you probably would, but I recommend trying to figure this whole thing out through the hotbox and the right mouse button, because once you get to bigger objects, like this is not big at all, right? This is a 20 centimeters. This is not even a big enough cage. Okay, you want to get something huge, like for example, because we're working in centimeters. For example, let me show you a 2-meter person, how it would look like. So we're going to create a polycone, for example. We're going to go and give it a height of 200 units. Create. Well, I perhaps I should have actually used another axis. Height of 200 units. We're going to create that, and that's how big a character would be. That's the size of a 2-meter character. Okay, so this is quite big, right? In other words, once you start using this option, you probably would want to, for example, increase your the size of your the grid, because this is really very small. In order to work with on some bigger objects like a character, for example. All right. Yeah, that's it. Modify your workspace, create your UI, set up your hotkeys, play around with the settings, and I will see you guys in the next video when we will finally begin modeling assets for our game. One last thing I forgot to mention, this is an addendum to the end of the video, is another useful shortcut called Shift D. So if we could create a cube, focus on it. Let me just flatten it out a little bit. Let's say you want to create a duplicate of it and move it to the left by so much. Okay, maybe you want it to snap even to this, you know, to this side here. So what if you want to create another duplicate on this, you know, so that it travels at the same distance? Obviously, you can duplicate this again, have it snap to the system here, but it's kind of pointless to have it done all the time. So you can press Shift D, and this will duplicate it once, and then you should be able to Shift D all this time, and this will give you the same transform than before. You can grab all these, move them around, Shift D, same transform. As you can see, this is exponentially increasing, so this will vastly speed up your workflow if you need to modify something. All right, video over, case closed. That's the lockdown for all of the Maya modeling tools that at least I am aware of and I find useful. All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.